everybody. How you doing? This is Robert Rivera with another edition of Who's on First, and we have a special guest, Mr. Wayne Yancey. He's here with the Forest baseball high school team. Wayne, tell us about yourself.
Native Floridian, been part of baseball since I guess 1960. As a young child, played up through in high school baseball and played a little bit in college, and then started teaching in Marion County and taught 3 years at Dunellen Middle School and was coaching high school baseball. Started at Dunellen High School, 77 season, 78, and then had an opportunity to move to town Ocala, where I lived, and Forest High School had an opening. And my first year at Forest was 1979, so I was here at Forest High School, whether this new location or the old one, since 35 years. Get through this year, it'll be 44 in high school baseball.
44 years in high school,
44 years, yeah.
All right. Who introduced you to the game?
I think I moved all over South Florida to the Bahama Islands. There was no baseball, it was just soccer. And then when we moved back to Miami in 1960, my next door neighbor, a gentleman named Howard Schoen, which nobody would know him now, but he would still play. We'd go down to the Orange Bowl, and at that time, the Orange Bowl, they just had a baseball field outside, and he would be continuing to play into, I guess, his late 30s, into his 40s, and we were his next door neighbor, and if he was going to a game, we got in the back and we went, and he taught us an awful lot about baseball, or taught me an awful lot about baseball, my brother and myself, and so we used to go with him and just loved going, loved sitting in the dugout as we are now, and just hearing them talk, and so that was how I was introduced to it.
What do you think is the one thing that you want to put out there to these kids? 44 years, I'm sure there was always something that you want every year you wanted to put out there for them.
Right, yes, there was. And, it was nothing more than having a lot of respect for the game and the way it was played and to play it correct. And, one of my big things always was, even when I coached, was, when you leave the dugout, we're on the move. There isn't any walking around in baseball. I mean, we're going to hustle and we're going to play the game right. We're going to have respect for the umpires, even though the umpires sometimes might have not thought that I had respect for it. And, when you get in one of those things, but that would be it. Just, and it didn't matter what size you were in baseball. There was always a place you could play and you could fit in with the team element, so it was good.
Okay, so you were doing team building, respect for the game type of stuff, and always hustling, always working.
Always working.
Always
working. And listen, let me just tell you, even when I was in Dunellen, we were blessed. I was blessed with some very good players over there. I was not the head coach then.
Okay.
But when I came to Forest High School, it was amazing how good of players that have come through our program. Nothing I did. They were just outstanding players and had that love for the game and desire to be better, to excel, and they did. Okay. And and I had just the most fabulous gentleman that coached with me all the years that I coached and was the head coach. As you and I have talked before about Earl Batty, he was with me for a while, and some baseball people would probably know something about Earl and his career.
Right. Well, the connection that I have with Mr. Yancey about Earl Batty, I was about 13, maybe 14 years old in Orchard Beach, and he was putting on a baseball clinic. And my dad had taken me that night to go see the doo-wop guys, and Cousin Brucey was going to be there. And we got there a little early to get some seats. Sure enough, I'm watching this guy hitting baseballs, kids are running around, and it wound up being Earl Batty. Well, as me talking to Mr. Yancey, Earl Batty turned out to be one of his coaches. Is that when he was working for Con Edison, right?
Correct.
For Con Edison.
Yeah, and he would go, even when he was coaching here, he did that Con Edison youth program.
Right.
And so I went to many events with Earl. If you remember Upper Deck, did some old-timer games.
Okay.
He invited me.
Right.
So, of course, you don't turn those down.
Right, absolutely.
So I was able to be introduced some of those great players from when Earl played in the 50s and 60s.
So what was Earl's philosophy on baseball? Yeah,
I don't know if Earl's philosophy on baseball, he would work with the kids, but Earl would sit about where we are in the dugout. And of course, me and the other coaches would be doing things, but he would sit there and they wouldn't ask a whole lot. But when he finally got up and said something to them, it was always something very important that he felt like they could work on. He wasn't one of those, move your hands here, do this, do that. He wasn't like that. But if one of the kids wanted to stay after and do extra work, Earl would do it.
Yeah, Earl was one of the guys that helped me with my hitting. On the batting tee, you want to be perfect, but when you're in the game, just swing away, swing and swing and swing.
Yeah.
And one of his little tips for me was to turn my hands over.
Right.
That'll get you an extra 5 or 6 feet. You know, a shot that's 299, it's going to be 304, 305 now. He goes, and if that fence is 301, well then there you go. There's a home run.
Yep.
He told me, you want to hustle out a double, or do you want to try it around the bases? I want to trot around the bases.
That's right.
Also gave me some tips behind the plate.
Yeah.
He derailed the train. I don't know if you ever heard that from him.
Oh,
but
yeah.
he said
Oh,
derail the train was always get in front of the plate, make
Right.
your outfielders throw a little shorter,
Right.
and then you can derail the train by hitting it from the side than
Right.
it is to stand on the tracks.
That's right.
So
That's
was
exactly
that was
right.
always his little.
Yeah,
his-
one of the great things that Earl would tell our catchers, and of course he would work with them and give them some of the, I'll just use the word fine tuning,
Right,
things that he'd just say, hey, you ought to do this, you ought to, and he would do it in practice. He wouldn't say much, but I'll never forget one of the times back when he was coaching, and of course we were together. They would not be you were able to collision.
Right.
At the plate.
At that time, right?
Yes. And Earl always would tell our kids, listen, son, it's base hit, hold your mask as long as you can, and then throw it up the third base line.
Yes, I remember he told me that. Yeah. I remember that.
So, and he just had all those things, but he just was wonderful with children and always was, and he had a great love for the game.
Okay.
Really great guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all the players that you coached, if I went to all those players and I said, hey, Coach Yancey, what was the one thing you remember from Coach Yancey? What do you think they would say?
I have no idea. and I would worry about
I'm sure it'd be all good, right?
I would hope so. But I think they would maybe have some things. I talked to some of my older players.
Okay.
I was with a couple of them a week or so ago, and I don't know how they talk about me behind my back. That's okay, but we're friends, whatever. But I would think they would think I was a fair guy. I would hope,
When spring training rolls around, does it get your blood pumping again?
Oh
Is it-
yeah. Well, we're here in Florida when we have this cold weather like we've had. I know it's getting time for, baseball to start because we have some brutal games out here at the beginning of the season.
Okay.
But that's here in Ocala. But oh my goodness, yeah, doesn't your blood? And we were just Coach Strite and I were talking about it. I said, I guess. It's time to start going to some spring training stuff. These guys are starting to show up. So
Okay. All
so.
right. This team this year, what has impressed you about them so far?
Well, the thing about this team this year is we've had all these good kids that have been with Jed and Mark for now 3 years. I just heard him walk up over here behind us. Matter of fact, my son, and he could probably give you a little more, but I think they're going to be very competitive and have a very good year.
Okay.
We get a lot of support from the parents.
Okay.
And that helps. And it's different than when I started. If I said something, and it didn't matter if I was doing football or baseball, but when you said something, the parents honored what the coach said.
Okay.
Sometimes today it's a little bit of a challenge for these coaches today.
Right.
Because parents listen more to what their child has to say.
Okay.
Anybody that's coached knows how it goes.
It sounds like travel ball.
Amen, brother. That's it. Yeah, absolutely, it does.
What is the biggest thing you've seen change over the years?
Well, of course, I've seen all the equipment change,
Okay.
and I'm sure you have too.
Absolutely.
And we've seen that, and so we went from playing with wood in high school. It's all we had, and you only got so many bats. The coach would buy so many. He'd ask you what you want, go pick it out. Let's get it bought, and then we went to those heavy thumpers, and then went to the light aluminum, and all those things.
Okay.
And of course, all the safety gear has been a good change. And I just remember all the equipment being so different. And that's the biggest change. And then the other thing I would say is just, I mean, we were talking about it the other day. We've got a board posted back here about the one that threw the most innings, you know, in Forest High School.
Okay.
And he was my player in '79.
Okay.
But people threw all the time. Now
Right.
now the state has jumped in there and put a limit on the pitch count
Right.
and all those things. So that has been a huge change. I don't know when you started playing, but when I started playing, we just wore little old flaps.
Right.
You know, just this. And then we wore that little piece up under your hat.
Okay.
And you know, I mean, just because people didn't throw as hard.
Right.
And then, of course, it got to more and more safety gear, you know, and different things. So,
Are you surprised? Like, I mean, in practice in '79, I mean, your hardest pitcher threw how hard?
I had a couple of guys that were that threw pretty hard, but in '79, I think Whit Harper was our #1 guy, and I believe that Whit today would probably be as successful just because he moved the ball around, could spin it when he needed to, you
Okay.
know, and just even back then. We would go to the regional and somebody would come out, you know, throwing smoke and throw it by, because we didn't have anybody that threw that hard.
Any of you guys ever go pro?
Yes, they did. Yeah, we've got quite a few that have in different aspects of going pro. Out there on the wall, Jonathan Johnson, I know, went to FSU and was an All-American. He was first-round draft pick. He made it to the majors. Kiva Sampson here was the latest one that probably he did make it with Cincinnati about 2, 3, 4 years ago. He was with Cincinnati.
Okay.
And then, let's see, Michael Musgrave was just here for a visit to see his parents. He lives in San Francisco, but that's who he pitched for. Now, he didn't get all the way to the majors, but he got, you know, close. So we've had some very, as I said, very talented players come through.
All right.
And you know, it just, I mean, this Forest High School, and that's what I know most about, but there have been just, you know, Ocala has been blessed with a lot of great baseball players.
Yeah, I moved here in 2015, and I really didn't know the area. I just happened to get my job here, and I'm starting to see baseball is very prevalent in this area.
Yeah.
A lot of people coming out of the woodwork, a lot of people that I'm bumping into, a lot of leagues and stuff, and it's amazing. Now, on the way in, I saw your name there on the field. They named the field after you, Mr. Wayne Yancey.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow.
When it happened, that was in right there as I was retiring, the administration day, because they named it, Wayne Yancey Field. Yeah, to be honest with you. Much more recognition probably needs to go to people that helped me be successful than to myself. That's for sure.
Well,
I've been blessed with just great people.
Well, that's more like a baseball philosophy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the pitcher can only do so much,
That's
but
right.
I mean, in the perfect game, you're bound to get somebody that catches a couple of fly balls, a couple of difficult catches here and there. So, I mean, the pitcher gets credited with the no-hitter, but I mean, you had a left fielder that made a hell of a play, and
That's
a third
right.
baseman that did a scoop
yeah.
down the line. We talk about helping and help each other. Give me one of your most memorable moments, something that's like your #1 that you always go back to. That it's in your coaching career.
My coaching career, 81 and 83, we were able to go to the Final Four. They did it different back then than they do now, which doesn't matter, but we had a lot of great moments during that time. I think one that stands out is in '83, we played at the University of Florida field, baseball field, college, the team's field.
Right.
And back then it was the old field. We were down 2 runs, I believe it was, as I remember, and one of our hitters, our 4-hole hitter, Tommy Snell, hit a home run, and we won the game, and were able to advance to the Final Four on that. So that was a special moment. I was thinking about that because one of the other day we were talking, one of my ex-players and I were talking about, we had a pitcher named Kevin Tippett that pitched in 86 and 87, right through there. Very good, left-hander. There was one ball that was bunted. Everybody else was a strikeout. It was a 5-inning game.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody else fielded a ball.
Nobody.
Yeah, he just dominated. And it was probably the quickest and the most just overpowering game I've seen.
Right.
But he had that great hook, from the left side, and he just could flat pitch,
Okay.
So, yeah, so.
So if I was a freshman coming into Forest High School and I want to be on the baseball team, what advice would you give me?
I would make sure that you did as much throwing as you possibly could and spend some time out doing whatever it took to get ready. And I would tell you that you need to be throwing every day. Now these kids sometimes they get different advice.
Right.
But I think you and I grew up in an era where we were always had a ball and a bat.
Yeah.
And we were throwing every day. And I didn't like running. But I knew, my dad said, son, you're going to have to do a little bit of running.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you like it or not. You better be ready to go.
Yeah. You're giving me flashbacks of a bucket of baseballs my dad used to always point to.
Yeah.
We go into the field. Oh, get the bucket of baseball.
Yeah.
There's a 5-gallon paint bucket
Yeah.
full of old baseballs.
Yeah.
And he'd get me up against the fence and just tee. No tee. We had no tee. Just toss it. Soft toss.
Oh, yeah.
Right into it. Then he'd throw it into your hip. You'd have to turn out. He'd throw it a little bit out. You have to go reach for it.
Oh, yeah.
Make that step into
Yeah.
it. Stride in.
Yeah.
Turn it in. Turn your hands.
Yeah,
You
all of that.
do all that, and it was just it was amazing stuff. Now I'm a brand new high school coach. What advice would you give me?
There would be a lot of things I'd say, and I would tell you that there's, as I said before, let's get on the field, let's hustle. You're walking on the field, you're sitting over here, and I've done that many times.
Right.
Brought a player right here and said, hey, sit down a while.
Right.
Why? Because you want to hustle on the field. You got respect for this game.
Right.
That would be one of them. And then the other thing that, that I think I would tell somebody is, all of this they got going on, they've got to put baseball has got to be a priority during baseball season.
Right.
For this team. And remember, the team, as you already said, it's more than just one guy.
Right.
It's not about you. It's about us. What can I do to make the team better?
Right.
Do I need to play there? Maybe you're not. Maybe you think you're the best shortstop, but maybe we need you to play second or third or sit this one out or be the DH this game. And there's a lot of, I call it group lift that goes on in the dugout when you post the lineup and they're not in it or where they want to be. That happens. I mean, you've got to do a lot of experimenting, a lot of stuff. It's just amazing to me out here now the way Jed and Mark do their practices. They have it all posted. It's ready to go. The kids know what to do. They've got all this new equipment that you and I never had.
Right.
That are watching swing plane and all that,
Right.
the best arc and all those things.
Right. And it all comes down to
Yeah.
the numbers. And
Oh, yeah.
I was funny
Yeah.
because in 2015 I had met Brian Kenny, and he's Mr. Stats, and we were sitting there, and I'm like, listen, man, I'm like, baseball is not stats. If numbers, you look at the numbers. You want numbers, go play Sudoku. That's
Right.
not baseball.
Right.
And I said, there's no way to measure a man's heart. You can't
Right.
put, his heart is a 10, his heart is a 5.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
And he made some really good comments, and pointed out some ex-professional baseball players that he said, hey, had these stats, these managers had these stats, that maybe they would have been given a better shot. Maybe they would have been a Hall of Famer. And
Right.
you look at it and go, you know what? I really can't argue that. So,
Right.
I mean, the stats to a certain, I understand it. To me, baseball is not numbers.
Right.
But if you're 0 for 16, guys, that's a problem. I don't need a book to tell me
Yeah.
that you're 0 for 16.
That's
we know
right.
that.
Most people know.
We know that. Everybody knows. Right?
But we have got, in this county, I know, in my years of being here, we've had, just absolute fabulous coaching. Not me necessarily, but the other guys. They just do great work with these kids. They get them prepared to play. And some of them, you learn a lot about life out there because you're not going to win every time,
Right.
regardless of what you do.
Right. I mean, that's one of the biggest deals that I've always said that, and I've heard other people say it, what's the biggest thing you've learned from baseball outside of the game?
Right.
And they say basically how to lose.
Right.
Because when you win, everybody's happy. Everybody
Oh, yeah.
knows how to win. Everybody's happy, but how do you handle that loss?
Yeah.
And in life, it's the same thing. You go to a job and you lose the job, or something happens. Maybe that day you had a flat tire. So I mean, what does that mean? You get a flat tire, you throw away the car, right? No,
Right.
you bounce back up, you pick it up, and you keep rolling.
Yeah.
And if you have a teammate, you pick them up. And that was one of the things where, like, when you had 9 guys, like, and you were the 10th, 12th, maybe the 15th guy on a 15-man roster. Like, if my guys are out there, I'm not sitting down. I'm at the fence. Come on.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Pick them up. Here we go. And I would turn around. Hey, come on, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
Stand up over here. Let's stand up over here.
Yeah.
Everybody over here. And you turn around and you pick them up. And if I showed up late, then, I would, without even saying, I would go run my lap.
Yep.
Hey, Skip, sorry I'm late. Boom.
Yeah.
And off to the races. Here
No
we are.
question.
No questions asked.
man.
I was
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I
Yeah.
know I was wrong. Nah, I got to run a lap. Well, you were 10 minutes late, so that's 10 laps, right?
Right.
Start running the laps. So the next guy comes and he's not going to give the skipper a hard time. He said, hey, I was 5 minutes late, and I'm going to go run my 5 laps because Rob was 10 minutes late. He just took off.
Right.
Dropped his stuff and poof.
But, one of the things, too, like you just said, all those excuses. Earl, he always used to say, listen, yes, you can do it. But listen, baseball is based on performance, not potential.
Right.
You got to do it.
Right.
You can't tell me what you could do. You got to show me when you get your chance.
The proof is in the pudding.
Amen, brother. Yeah.
So if you go for 0 for 16,
the
proof is in the pudding.
Amen.
It's not
because you're not seeing the same guy. 16
yeah. You're not seeing it 4 times. Four times. You're not seeing the same picture,
That's
and
right.
most likely, 3, 4 pictures into that game. So there's a bit of a problem. But I mean, I think baseball is one of those sports that teach you how to play as a team, how to perform as an individual, how to turn around and be a leader. And there's also times where you have to be a follower.
Right.
All right. And then there's times where you just have to take instructions. Your manager tells you, hey, you got to do this. You just do it. And I'm going to second. I'm going to third. I'm not really a third baseman. I'm a catcher. But you know what? Today I got to take one for the team. I'm a catcher all my life. You know how many times I got put in right field, first base, and third base?
Right.
I'm sitting there and go, but okay, where's my glove? Just I'm gonna go. I'm gonna drop my gear.
Play,
yeah, I'm gonna drop my gear, because if not, you know what? You may be watching your gear the rest of the game.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's for sure.
So I mean, one of the biggest, what would be one change that you would make in these modern times? What change would you make?
Well, I think if I was making a change, of course, that would be my pet peeve a little bit with some of the things that go on is just all of this. I guess it's just a selfish attitude instead of a team thing.
Right. Yeah.
'Cause I think that's. I think maybe it was Lou Holtz that said, when he was coaching years ago, player would come to him and say, Coach, what can I do to help the team?
Right.
Is there anything I can change to help this team?
Right.
Kids today, I get the feeling, not necessarily just pointing at one kid.
Right.
But listen, what can you do for me and what kind of privileges do I have?
Right.
And I see some of that.
Right.
So some of the changes I would make would have to do with, I don't like the pitch count.
Okay.
Because there's some kids that can go, not all of us are built alike.
Right.
And that would be a change I'd make.
Okay.
But I think that's a coach's evaluation. And then they would argue back and forth. I was part of the advisory committee for the state of Florida. And as we got into that pitch count thing, and it was, you were going to keep my pitch count, I was going to keep yours, and we'd be disqualified at this or that. I think we're mature enough coaches. I would hope there would be no coach that would put winning over a kid's arm.
Right.
But that would be something I'd change. I don't like the pitch count.
Okay.
Me personally.
Right.
Especially if you got a game on the line that you need to win, and you're at 89, and then now you got to,
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah. Did you ever have like a favorite drill or a favorite play that you would like to do during the game? Don't let on any secrets now.
Yeah. No. There were 2 or 3 things I would do.
Okay.
I always used to like to teach, when we were teaching, we had quite a few kids that struggled a little bit with the curveball. They'd get up, and I call it casting their arm. They're up here.
Right.
Instead of where they needed to be.
Okay.
And we would get over here on one of the mounds, and we'd always be throwing downhill. I wouldn't even let them throw on the side going to the plate. I'd make them throw the other way, so they would have to get on top of it.
Okay.
You know, that was a drill that I always did, and of course Earl probably taught me that drill. He just, you know. Then the other drills that we still do here is always be working on our feet. You know, just we had different things we
It's the
did.
footwork.
Because it doesn't. Baseball is a game of moving your feet.
Okay.
I've seen kids. All you have to do is go over across the fence over there, and nothing against the little leaguers, but you'll watch them catch the ball, and they'll reach. As long as they can reach it, they won't move their feet.
Right.
And so I always used to try to teach. Listen, everything's got to be here, and you got to get your feet there. And it was just big when I was coaching all the time, and these guys do it here. There's such great footwork with these kids, and
Right.
so we did a lot of that.
And it's not just the players, but the umpires also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, umpires, you got to have good footwork.
Oh,
the
yeah.
the game itself, you got to have good
Right.
footwork, and your first step has to be in the right direction. Because
That's
if you
right.
go in the wrong direction,
Right.
you got a bit of a problem.
Well, that's one thing I'll tell you has improved in the game is the umpiring. I mean, everybody thinks they're blind all the time. I mean, it doesn't matter when if the call doesn't go your way, they blew it.
They blew it.
But I will tell you that, to me, the umpiring in this area has gotten better than what it used to be, because we used to have some lighthouses out there. They would be at second and all, you know what, I mean, they just turn and look. They wouldn't,
Right.
you know, and you know that
Yeah.
from your umpiring stuff. They just wouldn't even try to get there.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
Well, sum up Forest baseball for me in one word. What would you say?
Success,
Successful program,
successful program.
and it's been taken over by your son.
Yes, and just I think Forest baseball success because of the wonderful coaches that have been here, excluding me.
Okay.
I mean, there are some fantastic guys that have made this successful.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Yancey. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
I appreciate you so
Yeah.
much.
Hope
All
it
right.
wasn't too long.
No, absolutely. You're fine.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Remember, as I always say, keep swinging, because every strike will get you closer to that next home run.
Amen. I agree.
If you like the show, please do me a favor. Subscribe. Right? You see it? It's right there. Subscribe, share, like, and don't forget, put that bell on. It'll ding you when I put something else on, all right?